All right, to talk about this Florida Panthers sweep and their trip to the Stanley Cup Finals for the second time in their franchise history, it's Craig Button, our director of scouting. Craig, Matthew Tkachuk, 2 overtime winners, 3 game winners in this series, including Game 4. He's turned himself into the modern-day Stéphane Matteau. He's like Matteau in '94 for the Rangers, isn't he?
Wow. I don't think, that Matthew Tkachuk, he's up for MVP of the league, Jay. I don't think Stéphane Matteau was ever up for MVP. But you know what? I get that big, important Game 7 win by the Rangers and Stéphane Matteau scoring it. I get where you're headed with that. But Matthew Tkachuk had 3 game-winning goals, 2 in overtime. He also made the pass to Sam Reinhart for the only goal in Game 3 that won the game. But I mean, this is a penalty. There's no question about it. Eric Staal gets his stick right into the feet of Forsling, and yeah, you're going to sit there with 57 seconds left. But Brady Shea gets too far out, and that's fatigue. That is a case of fatigue because they lost Slavin. And Matthew Tkachuk recognizes the path right to the front of the net, and with that path, he finishes it, and now they have a path to the Stanley Cup Final. Matthew Tkachuk has been brilliant in this series. He's been brilliant the entire playoffs. And when you think about the Florida Panthers, Jay, think about this. Since 1996, before they entered this playoff year, they had won 1 playoff round. They missed the playoffs 16 out of 18 seasons. And now here they are going to the Stanley Cup Final, and the way they play, 11-1 since they were down 3-1 to the Boston Bruins. And, finding their game, finding a way to emerge on the right side of 1-goal games. And when you're doing those things that allow you to do that, you're doing a lot of things right. They're going to be a handful for whoever they play in the Stanley Cup Final, whether it be Vegas or the Dallas Stars.
And it's incredible when you think of the regular season they had, right, Craig? I mean, among the more disappointing regular seasons we've seen from a team that won the President's Trophy the year before, maybe ever. There was times when we thought Paul Maurice might be on the hot seat. We questioned all the decisions they were making. And yet, they, as you pointed out, they put it all together when they absolutely had to, and it started with Boston.
Well, and it did, but it started when they were down 3-1, and they had to go into Boston in a must-win game. You think about Brad Marchand with a chance to win it late in the game. He was robbed by Bobrovsky. So it goes all the way back there. But teams find a level of play that works for them, and that's exactly what the Florida Panthers have done in this 11-1 run. And they're not doing anything to create problems for themselves. They're putting the puck behind opponents. They're putting the puck in areas where they can retrieve it. They're forechecking hard. They're taking the puck to the net. And they're defending well in front of Bobrovsky. And when the puck does get through to Bobrovsky, he's been fantastic in the net. So, it's never one thing that's going to work for you come playoff time. You got to have a lot of things working in sync. And that's where the Florida Panthers find themselves. And when you win a first-round series, that means you've won 4 games. There's nothing accidental. You're not an A seed anymore. You're a team that now is winning, and you're a team now that has found a way to eliminate one team. They did it versus Toronto. They did it versus Carolina. They move into the Stanley Cup Final with tremendous confidence, and the way they're playing is not accidental. They will be a handful for whoever they play in the Stanley Cup Final.
And after Game 3, Craig, I thought, all right, Sergei Bobrovsky is your clear front runner for the Conn Smythe. Now after Game 4 and Tkachuk's heroics, I don't know what to think anymore. What do you think?
Well, I mean, all I know is this, is that he's put himself in the conversation. I mean, I think we should be starting to call him Matthew Tkachuk, because that's exactly what he's been. And he finds a way to make his presence known throughout the game. But at the most important times, who's right there front and center? It is Matthew Tkachuk. Bobrovsky's been excellent. Ekblad's been excellent. We can look at so many players because, as I just said previously, to win in the playoffs, you have to have everybody playing as close to their potential as possible. That's where the Florida Panthers find themselves. And Matthew Tkachuk is right at the top of that list, along with Bobrovsky and many others for the Florida Panthers.
Craig, this is awesome, and Craig's going to be back a little later. I think you may have said it was Eric Staal who took the Canes penalty. It was Jordan Staal, but there's 4 Staals. How can we keep track of all these Staals? There's so many of them. I don't know how many of them there are. There might be more in Thunder Bay.
Yeah, well, Hey, listen, bottom line is it was Jordan Staal that took the penalty. Eric Staal was the beneficiary because he's playing for Florida. They each have a Stanley Cup, Jordan and Eric. Now it's Mark's turn to try to get one of his own.
Wouldn't that be a nice thing? That would just be awesome. Craig is going to join us a little later in the show because in that other conference final series, the Dallas Stars will be without their captain for a couple of games. That's later on SportsCenter.